Hello, everybody, and welcome back after another weekend of esports action. Back again here on the Global Gaming Network channel for your main hub of esports news on the Global Gaming Network channel. Here for today in esports, as always, my name is Andy. Join with me is Chris. Very, very busy weekend you had this, man.
Very, very busy weekend. We have a lot to go over, but we're going to start off with some Counter-Strike here. They had two tournaments going on. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the Fissure Playground.
Yeah, Fissure Playground number 2 was kicking off in Serbia. They were finally there in a LAN environment, being able to showcase all of their talents and abilities in front of a live crowd. And, well, it was definitely a spectacle, let's put it that way. If you're unfamiliar, the way that the tournament did pan out, Furia were in the grand finals for the first time since Instable in 2018. And Furia's IGL Fallen, the old guard, hasn't seen a grand finals back in ECS Season 7. Insane stuff to be able to say how long his career is.
It really is. And I mean, you have to take a look at what they've been trying to accomplish this year. Finally getting to win those grand finals and doing it against the Mongols of all teams. This was a banger of a 5-game series.
It really was, right? Starting off here on Mirage, this was a map that was not working well for Mongols throughout the entirety of the week. And candidly speaking, Furia played this wonderfully. I mean, as long as you just ban Ancient, you're more than likely going to be setting yourself up for success. So here's the final couple moments as far as an overtime round is concerned. Numbers here for Furia as they were able to take a 1-0 lead in grand finals. But it's more about like the teams that they bested along the way just to be able to get here. Like, I'm sorry, like it may be Falcons and Astralis, but still the way that they decisively marched their way to grand finals and to be able to have a 12-3 lead on Nuke was decisive nonetheless.
Yes, and you have to take a look at this also. This was a really interesting map. They go into this, as you say, 12-3. Mongols did bounce back in this map, though, bringing it all the way into overtime. But Furia would stay calm, collected, able to take that map, bring it to this next map where we'd head over onto Overpass, a map that we've been not seeing as too much for a little bit later onto this. But look at these great shots coming out. Furia looked really good into this. Although Mongols would take Overpass, they would send us to a game number 5.
Yep, here on Overpass, it was where they were able to push it all the way into that map number 5. Just a really good CT side out of the Mongols, but non-existent as far as Dust 2 is concerned. Here's one of the last handful of rounds coming through from Furia as they will put themselves up on match point in a commanding fashion. Shout out to everybody over there from Madhouse TV. Furia, very elated that they will be your Fissure Playground number 2 champions. They get it done in 5 versus the EWC champions of the Mongols. Very close. Again, we were talking about there on the Nuke. Ended up going overtime 16-12. They won the 4 rounds necessary to be able to push it into that overpass. But when you're looking at the map picks here, Furia didn't win a single one of their map picks, which is just insane. But the fact that they got through it in the end from the number 1 rookie of Molodor, their AWP, dropping a 1.19 rating. You definitely like their chances and the excitement for this team in their future.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, definitely excited. You can see how happy those casters were. Luckily, no equipment was harmed in the making of that excitement. But, I mean, taking a look, this is a big step forward for them, especially with some of these bigger tournaments that you saw the PGLs coming up for. If you have this win, gets a lot of confidence under their belt that they'll have to take, especially when they go up against a lot of these other teams that we didn't see at the tournaments, such as the, they take down the Mongols, which is good, but then you have to face off against maybe the Spirits and etc. And having some of that advantage of winning this tournament might help them a little bit later on.
One team that they were able to take down along the way were the Falcons. And if you're unaware of what's been going on with this team that is representing a flying bird out of Riyadh, well, we would definitely love to know the answers as well. As far as this team is concerned, from quite a few months ago when they were going through all these different acquisitions, Monacy gets brought on board, Magix was still a part of this roster. They finally get a championship win, but then it's top 3 at EWC. They continuously get top 4. Even versus other teams, not even just top teams, your Vitalities, your Valses. Here versus Furia, they come up short.
Yeah, they do. And almost here has just been the name of the Falcons almost this whole entire year, and they just haven't really been able to get there yet. They're making all these changes. They're bringing on Kyosuke, however you want to say it. and they just haven't been really make that leap. You say the flying birds out of Riyadh, well, they've kind of been walking the whole entire year here so far, and once again, just hasn't been enough to really push them to that level that they want to be with. And yeah, they're losing to the team that ultimately won the tournament, but you expect them to be in that grand final.
You really do, especially with names, and when Tessus is dropping plays like that. Monacy costs well over $1 million to get bought from G2. Kayusuke gets brought over, same thing from Nico. And he had to say this, that they're a much better team than they were in Cologne. That was the event that they looked the best at, and yet they still haven't been able to eclipse even top 4. We say third for EWC because there was a bronze match, but like, even still, like, that's still a top 4 to me, man. Like this team still trying to figure it out. They're going through roster changes. They have inconsistency issues. I don't know where the Falcons go from here.
Well, I don't either, and they want to go up. You're saying they're being a much better team, but unless you're putting that on the score sheet and unless you're getting the results for it, you're not backing up that claim right now. And so far, you're saying it, but I just don't see it.
One team that has definitely raised its stonks from this past weekend at Fissure Playground number 2 was Team Liquid, though maybe for all of the wrong reasons. Team Liquid were able to make their way into the playoffs by eliminating FaZe in that final match that was required for them. But for Team Liquid, their tournament was looking rather bleak to start things off. They start off 0-2, Chris, to start off their entire tournament run in the Swiss stage, but they get the job done all the way until the semifinals where they get eliminated by the Mongols.
Yes, and we were talking about this team, and they have been talking about this team. They have to go and make a run for this if they want to get those VSR points, and it almost looked doomed from the start, as you say there. They did lose to Furia, which ultimately was our grand final winners, but then you're losing to Gamer Legion 0-2. After that, they finally start picking up the win here against Heroic. They would finally find the 2-1 win that would start that win streak that would allow them to get the wins before they would ultimately lose later on in the tournament. But again, this does help them a little bit.
Yep, simple caster math. I mean, looking at it, like Team Liquid's run throughout all of this, like they were able to best Aurora in that quarterfinal match. Here's the final few moments where they were able to best FaZe. They were just making them look absolutely silly. And all memes aside from where Kerrigan was saying that it was the script and it was the plot and he played into it, it's just like this Team Liquid team showed up and they were able to absolutely show out. Because Chris is right to bring up the one simple fact. They needed VRS points just for Team Liquid to be invited to Budapest. They were underneath that threat, much like many other teams that were in and around like that 10 to 15 range as far as VRS rankings are concerned. And all of the points that they were able to accrue from wins versus both FaZe and Aurora have eclipsed them to be able to get to that point in time. But it's one player in particular that you got to talk about throughout all of this, and it is Twist. He's 20-7 right now here as far as round 20 is concerned in the final few moments of this matchup versus FaZe. He was everything for this roster this past weekend.
He really was, and again, you need a player like this to push you forward, to get to that point. They did get the BRS ranking, so they will qualify now for that Budapest major, and this is what exactly you want to see out of this player here. Twist just making the shots when they are needed. Of course, yeah, they're up 12-7 against the FaZe here, and FaZe haven't looked the best, but at the same time, when you're not looking your best either, you need a player to step up, and Twist did that.
Yep, and here's the words from Twist himself. After being eliminated from the Mongols, 2-1 was the final scoreline in that best of 3. And not too sure where their story is going, though we know for certainty where it is headed. Although it concluded at Fissure, Twist was a top 5 player from Team Liquid with 1.25 for his rating. He was up there with names like Kayusuke, Nico, Tessus, all Falcons were up there. An absolute gunners. But here's the future for Twist. It was announced last week. Team Liquid's CS account weren't tweeting a single darn thing. Nobody expected them to make this deep run, but Twist making sure that everybody is fully aware that when this guy gets back over to FaZe, he is bringing the gunny, and he's trying to turn things around. Not to mention how he eliminated from the tournament.
He eliminated from the tournament, so they're going to be happy he's coming back now, and especially after that. That is something that FaZe has desperately been needing after a lot of the roster changes that they've been having. They've looked a little bit cold, especially after dropping a Liege. Some up and down moments, but with Twist, if he's coming in hot like this, they should look pretty good.
Yeah, it's only bright for the future out of Twist. Got a semifinal, helped out Team Liquid to be able to get invited over to Budapest, and he's already going to be joining a team that was already getting that invite. We got more Counter-Strike news later on in the show, so you want to make sure that you look ahead for that one, but there's plenty more games to be talking about in many different countries and cities across the entire world, so it's time for us to travel back over towards Paris. VCT Champions is upon us, and we're just wrapping up groups on this very day. Today, on Monday, 9/22, is going to be the last 2 group stage plays for the play-ins. Both G2 and MIBR are on that stage to go up against Pacific and Pacific's Best. be able to qualify for that event. But we had matches all throughout the weekend. 2 best-of-3s per day, Chris, and we had NA's number 3 Sentinels going up against China's number 4.
You want to start us off with a somber note here. Unfortunately for the Sentinels, it just wasn't enough, especially going up against the Shylight Gaming. Like you said, the number 4 seed. You expect the Sentinels to come out a lot hotter. We know how they have performed at Champions in the past, but this time it just wasn't up to snuff here for it. Yes, they get this first map win on the Abyss versus Shylight Gaming, despite it being their pick, but ultimately would fall the next 2 maps, just not really setting them up for the standards that we had for the Sentinels teams coming out of the Americas.
Yeah, I mean, Sentinels, you even go back to like that stage 2 run, like they were looking just about as dominant as ever. Then they go up against G2 in that grand finals and they get mollywopped. Throughout all of this group stage so far, it just really hasn't been the same explosivity that we've gotten out from the Sentinels continuously. But I was very happy to be able to see their flexibility being showcased as well. The deadlock pick was nice, but that is XLG's wheelhouse. They were China's number 1 for quite some time, Chris, and for them to take this gut check Chow on Haven, in my opinion, was a little bit of a mistake. As far as the Zelsys KJ pick is concerned, going up against No Man wasn't exactly hitting the same.
No, it wasn't. And again, we're seeing here, as you said, we do have the ultimate pop and trying to see if they can figure out if they can stay in this game a little bit, but it's not enough. The Neon's going to come and take out John QD at the end. And unfortunately for Sentinels, their run at Champions Paris will end. But we have a lot more matches to go over. We're going to take a look at some of the other ones that were going on. Take a look here, PaperX versus China.
This is 4 groups. This is all from Group A. So Sentinels will be eliminated top 16 as far as their group stage is concerned with a 2-1 loss over XLG. Giant X, they brought the pain to PaperX. They did take a map off them, but they would then go down into the lower bracket to face up against Giant X. Here's NRG versus DRX. This is now hopping all the way down to Group C. This is the winner's qualification matchup. Final map here as far as Lotus is concerned. Final few moments to potentially get closer to overtime, but Scuba had himself a really good series. NRG had themselves a really good group stage, Chris, as they were able to beat DRX in 3 maps and able to qualify. They're joining PRX as the first 2 teams into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I was looking at that Group C as well, and NRG, they had some really close games for it. For them to win was really big coming out. But as you're alluding to, T1's playing today, but they had to play against Team Heretics into last week, and Team Heretics looking so good coming out of EMEA. Yeah, they says that's the number 4 seed coming out, but they have looked amazing in this group, going 2-0, especially taking this win off of T1 in that winners match. Team Heretics is on the rise.
EMEA number 4 seed, but they are EWC champions. T1, your Masters Bangkok champions. You expect that one to be a banger, but Benji Fishy is just built different. I don't know what that means, but Team Heretics will advance into playoffs. MIBR had to go up against what is technically one of EMEA's better teams, back-to-back grand finals appearance for Fnatic. They were only able to come out on top of one of them in the most recent LAN environments, but they went up against MIBR in their grittiness as far as the series is concerned, and Boaster was absolutely letting them have it. They were able to win this series 2-1 and then qualify alongside their EMEA brethren there in Group D of Team Heretics into the playoff stage.
Yeah, and as you can see, all those number 1 seeds, PaperX, Fnatic, Team Heretics, and RG all looking good, but now we have to figure out some of these other teams coming in. DRX versus Team Liquid, both of these teams would be fighting for one of those spots, and I mean, DRX is on the bounce back now.
Yeah, they really are. Going up against this Team Liquid roster who had a lot of high hopes that this is your EMEA number 1 team coming into this, but on the international stage, they've been coming up short. They did eliminate Edward Gaming. That was a champions roster from last season that ended up winning everything, but they came up into that DRX matchup, and then DRX absolutely played them like a fiddle. Just their macro was just way too strong, and Team Liquid just had no response. Giant X going up against Jai Gaming, looking to get the trade of the EMEA rosters and for what they have to bring to the table. And this team is just so fun to watch, man. I don't know what it is about Giant X. Nobody expected them to make the run that they did in their regional playoffs. Nobody expected them to make the run that they are currently doing at Champions, excuse me. They're going to be in the playoffs, man.
They are going to be in the playoffs. They looked really good doing it. Jai Gaming, of course, would be eliminated. And then, as we said, taking a look at some of these other groups, Group D is going on right now as we are recording. T1 versus G2. That is going to be a great match because it was when we left it. And, of course, we do have MIBR versus RRQ to round off the group stages and see who makes that playoff bracket.
No Chinese teams are represented in Champions playoffs. All of them were eliminated, top 12, top 16 in the group stage, one way or another. And, well, we already got a guaranteed 2 Pacific teams. Other is going to be EMEA as well as North America potentially. But as Chris already alluded to, RRQ is going to be facing up against MIBR later today on the 22nd of September. And at the time of this recording, G2 is going up against T1 as a Masters Bangkok Grand Finals rematch. But we're going to get you covered throughout the entirety of the week as far as VCT Champions is concerned. This is the final day of groups. Then we're going into playoffs this upcoming weekend. But we got plenty more to dive into as far as Riot's IPs are concerned, because LTA very much so in effect this past weekend.
It is very much so in effect, and we have finally gotten to it. We have more of the North versus South games, and, well, let's just say that the North put on a show. We had finally FlyQuest facing off versus BKS, and we know that there were some issues with the FlyQuest roster. Brookwell was suspended, so Vergakos, he had to come in and fill in for those shoes. Luckily, he did have a week, and he put it to use here. Gakos absolutely insane this weekend, starting off on this Aurelia. He looked so good.
He really did. And it's funny, too, because when you go into this, how is VKS going to try to win this series? It's probably trying to bully Gakos. How's FlyQuest going to win this series? Well, you get an Ivern in the jungle, and just make sure that that top lane ain't nothing but a sweet lane for that top lane to absolutely flourish.
Yeah, it really was. And, I mean, he looked really good, especially onto this Jax as well. It showed his level of maturity through the week and how much that practice really helped him out along with the team. As you said, they were kind of playing to that top, making him play safe a little bit, and then it allowed him to really shine going into these matches. Or onto the Aatrox as well. He only doesn't have to play some of those fighters, but these fighters looked really good for him. They really changed it, into that, helps in that front line, just says, I'm going to get in there. And then we have a little treat, though. Masu comes in with the pentakill. We had to put this in. Sorry, Gakos, we had to put you a little bit on the back pedestal as Masu picks up the penta on this misfortune. Add insult to injury at the end of this match. Look at it. There it is. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. You did a good job. Guess what? You're going down as the misfortune comes out at the end. It's enough time. There's the pentakill. First one of the weekend onto that misfortune, so you know I'm biased.
But it's even funny, too, because, like, he called that penta as soon as the Pop Blossom came out. Like, they actually played the clip of, like, the voiceover, like, when they were all communicating. It's like the moment that Busio gets a Pop Blossom off and then Masu gets out the Bowl Time ultimate, like, oh, yeah. It's all just pentakill, pentakill, pentakill. But I think that Busio was probably the saving grace of that final series, in my opinion. Wonderful Nico play.
It was, and we'll talk about the saving grace of this 100 Thieves Red Cannon series. Well, it's 100 Thieves. The heist is continuing as they do qualify for Worlds, but Quid has been on an amazing run for this team since they finally started picking up and gaining the momentum after Dokula was brought on. But he has been a really solid force throughout the whole year, but he really showcased this into the series right now. And let's take a look at his pentakill.
Yeah, if it's not Quid, it's gonna be FBI for this roster, man. And I've also gotta like really shout out Dokla, just like putting all the the demons aside and being able to just do his thing up in the top lane, because it has not been easy for him in these a lot of top lane matchups. But this pentakill coming from Quid really shows a lot of where 100 Thieves want to put their carries on. You see a lot of Silas in the jungle these days, Chris, but in the mid lane, yeah, he still pops off.
He still pops off, and remember this series was whether or not FlyQuest would continue their final run in League of Legends. Look at that. That Gage is hitting multiple, allows FBI to follow up and get the kills. There it is, 100 Thieves and FlyQuest both taking 3-0 victories over their LTA South opponents. This means that with Red gone, BKS is the sole remaining LTA South team, and they will face 100 Thieves in that losers semifinal or that losers finals match to see who will face off against FlyQuest in the grand finals for those seeding points as we continue on.
League of Legends is forever growing, as now we are going to be able to get the top 3 fully in order in Texas to be able to see who's going to be the #1 team coming away from the LTA Championship. Again, #1 probably going to end up being FlyQuest. Whippo's back in full effect. But hey, man, that 100 Thieves run is still going on, and we're going to have to put up with that all the way into Worlds. So hey, who knows, man? The LTA just very much so might be roaring through the upcoming week. Chris has got you covered for all of that. Not to mention how we go further in depth as far as up is concerned. There was more Counter-Strike action, though, throughout the weekend. If you weren't already satisfied with what was happening at Fissure Playground for that LAN event, we also had StarLadder currently going on for Fall 2025. This is a secondary event that was going on side by side. You got a big household names in attendance, one of which was Na'Vi, trying to get themselves some VRS points. We were talking about it from Team Liquid's perspective. You got Nip in attendance as well, Genomates, B8 Esports as well. Like, you got a lot of different names. but most importantly, Navi's just trying to get some W's underneath their belt.
Yeah, and that they did. We're going to start off here with their match against 9. And again, this is a team that you said that's been kind of wanting on the rise, much like Furia. Getting this grand finals win kind of might push them a little bit forward and getting some of that, what they need to get forward to see if they can face off against some of these tier 1 teams. And this is the best way to start it off here. Navi looking really good, getting some of those VRS ranking points. Of course, they had not the biggest competition, but still a win is a win.
Yeah, I mean, still getting at least some competition. Sorry, I just realized that Im has a little plush side duck on his desk, and I don't know how I didn't see that when I was watching the Surge Pass. It completely caught me off guard. But yeah, I mean, like, they're not blowouts, right? And this is a Navi team that you expect to be able to compete with some of, like, the other top dogs, like your Vitality, your Mouse, and all that kind of stuff, especially for the namesakes that they do have. And when they brought in Mikaze, as far as that roster change is concerned, like, the honeymoon stage was absolutely hidden, but they've been falling more and more as the tournament's been progressing. Here's Passion UA getting themselves into double digits here in the final moments. Just not enough to be able to retain the numbers. Navi 1v1, and we'll end up losing it to Wonderful. But hey, man, Navi able to at least get themselves up to the upper final where they would inevitably meet Ninjas in Pajamas, and this is their biggest test so far.
Yeah, and the biggest test, and they did a wonderful job going into this. They would ultimately win this series to get them into the grand finals. But of course, you're wondering as they were progressing through the tournament how they would fare against some of these teams that might put them up for the test, and they absolutely did a great job coming into this. Kind of just solely saying that if we're going to win this, we're going to be the #1 in the tournament that they would be at the end of the day. But again, really big win for them coming up here, especially, being in this environment that they're in.
Yep. So 2-0 in the upper finals meant that they would then face off against Ninjas in Pajamas again in another best of 3 in grand finals. Ninja in Pajamas went up against B8, who had a massive lower bracket run, but they 2-0'd them down there. Navi, much like in the upper finals, would then 2-0 Ninjas in Pajamas once again in grand finals. But yeah, I mean, Ninjas in Pajamas definitely showcasing that they got hands. Whether they are able to showcase all of that versus some of the top teams, I don't know. Hint, hint on what's in the future for Counter-Strike. But Navi, most importantly, I think this is a big deal for them, for players to be able to get that exact feeling right there. You see the absolute elation. Finally being able to get a series win versus another team, a championship win. Alexi B has been very, very public on social media to say, look, whatever it may be, we just got to get some confidence going for these guys. This squadron definitely needs it going into whatever major event is in their future.
Yeah, and that's definitely what this weekend was for a lot of teams, whether it be Furia, whether it be Navi at this moment. Get that confidence going into some of these major, some of these bigger tournaments. See now how far you can progress against some of those tier 1 teams, Spirit, such as the Mongols, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, Mongols are already beat here, so you already have some of that confidence there, but you have to beat some of the other big ones, the Mouths, like you said. So we have to see how far they can go now.
Well, maybe you think that you have what it takes to go up against Torzy or Wonderful in an AWP 1v1. The only way that you're going to be able to know for certainty is if you hit the lab. If you hit the AIM Labs, the #1 AIM trainer across the world for all of esports included. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Games are about competition, a way to test our skill and prove we are better. Challenge is in our nature. We need to know what we're capable of. How far can we go? It's a question that drives millions of gamers to push themselves and prove that it's only a matter of sheer will. Ever since first-person shooters came into the esports scene, players have never stopped defying the odds through the most important mechanic of them all: aim. Aim is everything. It's a set of skills that needs to be trained, and this is where science and gaming meet in AIM Labs, the aim trainer that redefines what gaming means, because science doesn't leave anything to chance. Winning is never a matter of luck. Every brief moment of greatness takes constant and unrelenting preparation, and that's exactly what AIM Labs is about. We enable players to thrive and upset the balance. Together, we elevate play.
As we continuously talk about all the esports happening across the globe, some major tournaments and some other ones are going to be happening in the future. Talking about Halo, of course, they are coming to our neck of the woods for Charlotte in a few weeks' time here for October for the HCS Charlotte Major. But they also had some TSM 2K and tournaments happening throughout this weekend and this upcoming weekend. We got our main man, Eli the freaking Ninja, to describe it all for us.
What's up, Spartans? We had a huge Halo tournament over the weekend, the TSM 5K Pro-Am tournament. And all the best teams in the world signed up, including Optic, Shopify, FaZe, and more. Let's go ahead and jump into the clips so we can watch this tournament. Starting out, we had the announcement that we went live on the official TSM Twitter. Lots of new Halo viewers. Here was the top 8 bracket, but we're gonna start out in the winners quarterfinals. This was between Envy and TSM, two teams that have been duking it out all season long. It would look like it could be TSM's day here as they would go up 2-0 in the series. However, Envy would answer back. Nice repulse with the flag here from Piggy. It's currently tied 2-2, only 6 minutes into this match, so very fast-paced. We're gonna go ahead and speed this up to show when Envy punched it in for game number 3. They would bring it all the way to this game 5 scenario where Descendant and Piggy worked together beautifully. Piggy holding the high ground, following up on the damage that Descendant started, gets the triple kill back smack onto Talik bottom center. This would ultimately lead to a massive lead for them as Descendant would go on a killing spree and get a triple of his own to close things out. They would soar into the lead and ultimately win this one 50-40. Envy complete the reverse sweep on their year-long rivals of TSM, the team that was part of this sponsored tournament. But unfortunately, Envy would then get 3-0'd by Shopify Rebellion. Shopify would await the winner of this series, Optic versus FaZe, to see who they would face in the winners finals. And this is an intense game. Game number 4, both teams have a round of oddball win already and just trying to close out this game. FaZe putting up a massive fight. They leave the ball in the river. It's an all-out brawl at the bottom of the map. And Optic play keep away successfully to close out the series 3-1. This would send them to the winners finals where they would face off against Shopify Rebellion. This is a matchup we should all be familiar with at this point. And this is how things would start off in game number 2. By the way, Shopify were down by 10 at one point in this game. Absolutely insane stuff. Still trailing by 2 in the end game. They've got to basically play perfect. Optic now just 1 kill away from closing out this game. But look at the way Shopify play. They sit back, they wait, they watch each other, and they ice up time after time. Ultimately, Formal decides to try to cut through bottom center, see if he can get a different angle. Another member of Optic that's bound, hiding in the vents. Royal 2's gonna suss out his location with some great grenades. He's actually revealed himself here. And in just a moment, you'll see the grenade comes through. Royal 2 with a crazy grenade to kill bound. Now Formal's left all alone, and just like that, Shopify Rebellion pulled a miraculous comeback in game number 2. But in the game 5 Slayer, we'd be in a very similar situation. This time, it's all tied up at 48. Optic and Shopify just brawling on Solitude. At the very end here, it's bound, jumps up, gets the body shot into headshot onto Royal 2 for the 50-49 photo finish. Just look at the movement out of these guys, so clean with it. That'll stamp Optic's ticket to the grand finals winner's side with an insane series. I mean, every single game was close. Now, the Mexico's #1 team was making waves against FaZe, but oh my God, what just happened? Let's watch that from Lucid's point of view. This is from his stream, Lucid_TW, gets the double kill, picks up the sniper, turnaround, no scope, triple kill, 180. Let's watch that back in slow-mo. Lucid is disgusting. By the way, Akavi came back and won that game, and they also won the next game, and they force a game 5 against one of North America's best. Akavi, like I said, the #1 team from Mexico, don't often get to play against this type of competition. Shout out to them. They were able to upset Team Envy en route to a 4th place finish. They should be very proud. But over on to the lower finals, that would set up Shopify and FaZe Clan to go up against one another. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it wasn't that close. Shopify Rebellion did not drop a map to anyone not named Optic Gaming in this tournament. These were the closing moments of that series where Lucid just not fast enough to get into the zone to contest. Shopify will take the clean 3-0 sweep. And the grand finals matchup was set. Optic and Shopify, bitter rivals all year long, would face off once again. And this is how Frosty sets the tone in the grand finals. Backsmack for the sniper rifle, no scopes Formal. He's not done yet. Jumping no scope onto Renegade. ultimately Shopify would be on fire. And Royal 2 said, you know what, Frosty, I can do that too. Picks up where his teammate left off with a killing spree, double kill, triple kill of his own. This would be where you see the score. It was a blowout in game number 1, Live Fire Strongholds, not even close. In Optic Gaming, got to figure out what to do. Fast forward to game number 3 in the first set of the grand finals, and it's just going to tick up one by one. Shopify Rebellion from the lower bracket forced the reset with a 3-0 sweep. It's not often that Optic gets 3-0'd by anyone. Now in the reset, I said Frosty set the tone in the last one. Well, guess what? Renegade sets the tone in the grand finals reset. Double kill. He's got the camo as well. Finds 3, and he's not done yet. Cycle tries desperately to run away, but gets hunted down for the overkill. That's one way to start the grand finals reset. They would go on to win that. Fast forward to game number 4. It's tied 2-2 on Forbidden Flag, and look at the run from Legend. Within seconds, he is across the map. This is the fastest flag runner in Halo Infinite history, but he dies at the last second. Can anyone bring it in? Yes. Finally, Optic will defeat their demons. They become your TSM 5K Pro-Am champions. This is a big win for Optic. Last couple lands, they were losing to Shopify, so to bounce back in the end of the year is huge. There will be another TSM 5K next weekend, which we'll be covering as well. Shout out to Jersey Mike's for the sponsorship. Got myself a nice little sandwich at the end of this one. So this has been an incredible weekend of Halo. Like I said, there's even more Halo action for the rest of the year. Look out for HCS Charlotte October 3rd and Worlds on the 24th. Thanks, guys. Back to the desk.
Thanks as always, Eli. Just happy he was able to get himself a nice sandwich at the end of that. It was a very fun tournament there. As Eli was talking about, the Pro-Am 5K may have concluded this week, but we still have another TSM-based tournament happening next weekend for Halo. So you want to make sure that you tune into that one as the competition continues to ramp up ahead of the early weeks of October before we pack our bags and we get down to the convention center here in Charlotte. But that's all we got as far as Halo is concerned. Now we got to start talking about the other 3 regions as far as League is concerned.
That we do, and well, guess what? We finally have some of our representatives going across the Eastern conferences of League of Legends. We'll start off with LCK, though. We had our upper bracket finals match between HLE and KT, and guess what? HLE fans are going to be pretty delighted with the outcome of this match. And well, the Light would be the one to really help push them there, especially onto this All-Star. We don't talk about supports enough in some of these games, but the Light was an absolute legend in these games, playing not only the All-Star, but many of the other support champions that we've seen. And just his ability to get in and help dictate the fights for his team were amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want out of a good support, setting up their carries for absolute success. I mean, when you see the Sivir, that's a real big deal. But even going into the Rel, as far as the second game is concerned, just an absolute pure delight to watch.
Yes, he was. And then we set up for the second game. But guess what? As I said, it's not only those tanks. We're seeing the Camille support come out here.
Ridiculous.
They're able to pull it out. And look, yes, he sacrifices his team, but he gets the jump on the Smolder. They get the kill, and he's showing that they have some of these back pocket picks that they can use, especially against teams such as KT.
Very scary when you think about how deep Fearless may truly go. HLE just being able to get into the depths as far as their support pool is concerned. Not really sure how you get that teaming of a matchup when you get engaged by a Camille. That's scary stuff. But T1 going up against Gen G, the El Clasico coming our way, but this time in the lower bracket.
Yes, it was. And sorry for that score, but they did end up going all 5 games. T1 picking up number 2 and 3. But Chovy, when you let him get going, and especially in these games that we saw, just really took it forward. But I want to especially point out this Cassiopeia and then the Vex that we'll see, these aggressive champs that he can farm on and then just pump out the damage. He looked amazing when he was on top of his form in this series.
Well, just look at the composition difference alone. You get the Blitzcrank plus the Cassiopeia. Like, they're trying to be the faster of the 2 teams, and T1's response coming into this one was carry up on the Maokai and the Ziggs from the Guma. Not exactly the response you were hoping for, in my humble opinion.
No, and then I don't know if that was Ezreal or Vex at the end with the amount of Qs he was pumping out with that CDR build there, but they'll take a look at this bracket. There it is, HLE moving to the finals, meaning that they will be are guaranteed a 1 or 2 seed, but now Gen G has the rematch against KT, who handed them their first best of 5 loss in 7 months. That means that we'll have to see, can KT get the run back and give them their second loss and potentially knock them out from potential finals run? Or will we see Gen.G bounce back into form, get into that grand finals and face off against HLE once more? We'll have to see as we head into this weekend. Let's go ahead and jump into LPLs. We finally have some of our seeding for the LPL region that are going into Worlds. And yes, it would be jumping into BLG versus TES, a run back from that winners once again. And BLG are making use of this 6-man roster. Last time we saw Beichuan move in and then help the team out. This time it would be Shadow who would be subbed in game number 2 and then help them take them to their grand finals win.
Yep, here on the J4 would be the opening pick there with the 12 assists going into the Poppy after the Trundle. And you can just see the difference as far as the support picks are concerned. Just constantly trying to set up players like Knight, trying to set up Elk, just trying to get their hyper carries in a more powerful position. That's the BLG way.
Yeah, and then we're taking a look at this. Just Shadow, so good on this Sejuani, picking up kills despite being on this tank. But look, this is a player that started off in the LEC, then makes his way over into the LPL, and has just been absolutely growing in the final stages of split number 3. Yeah, they had a little bit of a rough run before coming into this, but now they are China's #1 seed going into the next stage for Worlds, and they are going to be on home turf. And when you've been playing as well as they have, especially having the junglers that they can interchange, they are going to be a tough opponent for many of the teams going into the World's contention. So there we see them lifting the trophy. How happy they must be. They've been on the cusp, not only coming in second in MSI, but finally getting the first place here. But this is the big thing, the championship points.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just because of the way that this tournament did pan out, for top esports being in the grand finals doesn't mean that they're the second place team. Off of points alone throughout the entirety of the season, that's anyone's legend.
It would be anyone's legend. So anyone legends getting that win in split number 2 gave them enough points to mean that they are automatically going into Worlds as the #2 seed. But we still have a regional finals that we'll talk about a little bit later as we go on into the ending of this week for the last 2 spots. And remember, T1 lost last week, so whoever gets the 4th seed in LPL will have to face off versus T1 to play in for Worlds. But let's jump into LCP here. And we do have CFO making their grand sweep of the LCP throughout 2025. This team cannot be beat. They go 3 for 3 in the splits. They are our grand finals, and Hong Q looked so good in the series. You can talk about any of the players, but Hong Q has just been amazing.
It's a mage's world and we're just living in it, or it's a flying oysters world and we're just living in it as far as the LCP is concerned. Yeah, Hong Q had himself a really good series here on the rise, 6-1, 14 assists, just layering in damage. I mean, you may have tried your absolute heart out, did you Wales, but it just simply was not enough. Even going in towards like the game 3, not only just having like the Akali in mid, went 12-3 by the way, but then you also have Doggo down in the bot lane with the Nico. Like everything was coming up for CFO.
It really was. And this team, I don't think you can even think of them as an underdog anymore going into
Not in this region.
Not anymore. For this team, the region, Team Secret Wells, we're taking a look at them. We're taking a look at PSG. Maybe we can consider them underdogs. But this CFO team, I think people are expecting to make a really big run. And as you alluded to, this whole entire team, even from, we didn't talk about Driver, Jinjia, these players are all amazing. But they also utilize this 6-man roster to its fullest potential, and they finally get the win. They're going to lift the trophy here at the end. This is 3 for 3 for them. They're very excited, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the world at this point is really excited to see them there, because not only do they bring great gameplay, but also good vibes to the entirety of the international stage. We're going to be excited to see them there. I can't wait to see how far they go. But there they are, solidified 3 for 3. CFO are your LCP champions.
As always, there's tons of moving parts all behind the scene, especially when we're in the off-season. Call of Duty news very much so back and upon us, as we do have rosters being announced, contracts being signed, and teams are moving. We talked about it last week. Riyadh Falcons now moving over across the seas. Now it's FaZe's turn. They just jump over to the West Coast.
City, Simp, Cell, Draza, the whole squad, Call of Duty League champions. Atlanta, it's the guns, it's the glory, it's championship for FaZe.
With this move over to Vegas comes along with some new faces. Draza Simp will be rejoining this roster for FaZe, but 04 and Abuza from the Silver Surfing Vancouver Surge team of last year will be joining Draza and Simp. The twin is home as far as Vegas is concerned. Not the only news to talk about in Call of Duty is concerned. Karma reveals this in a Twitch chat, saying that no coaches will be on the stage during the CDL season. Very controversial statement, especially after it was beloved as far as the previous EWC is concerned. Having the coaches up on the main stage, Chris, live calming there with their team in hard points, being able to give them direction in the respawns was a massive hit at EWC.
It was, and you have to take a look at it. We see it a lot with Halo that the coaches are allowed to do that and how much it helps the teams, but also kind of brings the presence. And not allowing that going into CDL kind of feels like a little bit of a step back for me. I really liked seeing it when it was happening. Of course, I'm not the biggest, Call of Duty head. I'm trying to get into it a lot more, but I think from even a viewer perspective, it kind of takes it off a little bit. How do you feel from your perspective?
Well, even from having like DB5 behind you, being able to get that voice in your headset is absolutely beloved. This is also happening over across the pond as well. FECOD, Federation Española de COD, is currently going on. Miami Heretics have a new partnership, and they're going to be throwing off a Spanish league to showcase more of the Spanish talent for Call of Duty's sake. We're also packing our bags to Birmingham. DreamHack have announced a UK event in its location, of which Adam Apicella then had to say this. With Birmingham DreamHack announcement this week, what games would you guys want to see? It has a real potential to become MLG 2.0, or so Adam Apicella says. Like what we had at DreamHack Dallas just this past season. We had a Halo major, we had Counter-Strike there, we had a Call of Duty major happening as well. We very much so might be eating really, really good when it comes down to 2026, but you guys let us know in the comments down below, what are you most excited for and how many DreamHacks are you going to be attending to watch some Call of Duty events coming your way? But as all of the progression continues to come our way as well, not only is Call of Duty under the microscope as far as news is concerned, Counter-Strike also has their fare as well.
Yes, they do, and we have a lot of news to go over, and one of those is starting off, we have some W-Riz coming out from this. W camera work. We're going to go ahead and play this clip here because there was some fun going on, not only in gameplay, but also some interaction with the crowd.
The stage interaction was so fantastic throughout the entirety of this. Like, the production crew were really working overtime. In case anybody can't read, girl, are you single? To this young woman in the front crowd who says, yes, I am. And he's like, absolutely. Cannot believe I risked up on camera. Thank goodness that he was able to spell single correctly the first time. But Virtus not so pro coming in towards this week now as they are have lost their Budapest major invite. It is not in the mail.
Yes, we were talking about this earlier. NIP with their big run allowed them to take that off. But again, Harrigan setting some records for all the wrong reasons here. That is 73 events with a negative KDA.
Aurora has signed an 8-year-old talent, Sha Lun. You guys let us know what you think about this. He's not exactly of age to be competing in professional tournaments, but with PGL Astana, we very much so might see his young face in attendance.
And while we were talking about Furia and all the success they've had, yes, they have moved up to the top 3 in the VRS rankings. That is right. They are pushing themselves up right behind Vitality.
And then as we have the news, as far as the cases are concerned, you have to open up the case and then buy the weapon once it lands on it. This is very backwards to what we had as far as loot cases are concerned, but it is basically Valve's way to bypass Steam's marketing.
And we talked about him before, but Twist is time's over with Liquid and is heading to FaZe. And now we'll have to see how this all shakes up and can this be the boost FaZe have been looking for.
Was the last match there for Team Liquid going up against FaZe, eliminated them from Fissure Playground #2. Now we're going to be able to see what they look like in upcoming majors and events. But Counter-Strike news is forever evolving. Feels like we have a tournament almost every single weekend because, of course, we do. It is Counter-Strike at the end of the day. So as we now turn the page as far as what is in store for us this upcoming weekend, we have tons of things to talk about. Mostly when it comes to League of Legends, Worlds is very much so upon us. We got some regional playoffs going on this weekend.
We do, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, winner. The LCK is going to be going on, and we saw some heavy hitters at the end there. And yes, it would be Genji going up versus KT to see who would then ultimately face our HLE in that grand finals. Of course, this is all for seeding now. We have all of the teams finally set up here, and as you can see, T1 taking that 4th seed. Now that 2 and 3 seed will be ultimately, or that number 3 seed will be taken off in the lower finals. HLE is, of course, waiting for those winners in the grand finals that will be happening on that 28th. But we talked about this a little bit more. We finally have another matchup there. It is 100 Thieves trying to continue their heist to face off against FlyQuest once again, or can BKS, those Vivo Keith Stars, can they redeem themselves after that 3-0 loss to make it into the grand finals? But this is the one bracket we didn't talk about. We did not have any matches this week for LEC as they are going to be heading to Madrid, so we did take a week off there. Fnatic versus KC, and then the winner faces the hometown Koi. After that, we do have to see if anyone can take a match off of G2 in those grand finals, because, man, G2 has been running the LEC in this split number 3 so far.
All teams on those brackets for regional playoffs will be in attendance for Worlds. But the question is, how long will Faker and T1 be at Worlds? They still have to play that play-in matchup before they can even think about the group stage. But we also have a Super Smash Bros. Tournament that is happening this upcoming weekend as well. Smash Mania is happening. And although it's only a $3,000 prize pool, not exactly the biggest prize pool in attendance, you have some of the namesakes coming back in attendance. Pluto's going to be there. Kurt's going to be in attendance. The GOAT, MK Leo, will be there as well. Who knows what competition will be in store. Gotta appreciate another Smash Brothers tournament coming our way for our screens this weekend.
They will, and then that's not the only fighting game tournament that we have going on. It's time to test your might. That's right, Final Combat, Mortal Kombat 1 having a big tournament coming off. We've seen a lot of big names, but mostly Sonic Fox will be showing up in attendance in that Group A, and you know when he's going to be playing there, you're going to be having a rough time. But some other notable names that we've seen in across the board, FGC Boy, Tweety, all playing in. And then, of course, in that Group D, we have a last chance qualifier to see who may come out on top.
These groups are absolutely stacked. That Group A is going to be Death Incarnate itself. Mortal Kombat 1 is an absolutely fantastic game. Nice to be able to see a $200,000 prize pool tournament happening on our screens. Anytime that I can end up seeing Omni-Man versus Homelander, I'm definitely here for that, man. Should be a very fun time as we continue on throughout the rest of the weekend for fighting games. But as I was talking about, we do have more announcements coming our way for Counter-Strike, of course. We're talking about ESL Pro League. Season 22 was also announced to be coming our way. 16 teams will be in an accompaniment for each other to be able to see who's going to be the #1 team for the ESL COD or the ESL Season 22. But still, as far as these teams are concerned, Stage 1 teams are going to have to go up against each other before pitting up against the Stage 2 teams. This was what's most important for those VRS points. You look at a lot of these bottom teams as far as Stage 1 is concerned. Roosters are going to be there from the Pacific region. Legacy will be back as well, and 80. A lot of teams trying to fight for those top VRS positions.
Yeah, they are. And of course, we're definitely looking at some of those teams like the Furia who just got their win. And then how can they make it? Can they play against some of those top teams that we saw that have already moved on to stage number 2? You have a lot of work that go out for you. Hopefully, those Roosters can make it. I like that logo that you have. I want to see it more. I want to add it to our database, showing up on one of those lower thirds there. But again, we're going to have a lot of fun with that tournament.
Yeah, it would be fantastic to be able to see the Roosters logo just stapled on like a giant arena, and just we have to look at that somehow, some way. But I'm not gonna lie, the Oceanic and Pacific region haven't exactly been doing too much unless your name is the Mongols or even Tai Lu, for crying out loud. But that's all going on this upcoming weekend, so you want to make sure that your butts are seated across the entirety of the week as we got you covered here on the Global Gaming Network channel. What are you most excited for? Let us know in the comments down below, and subscribe to get all of the content weekly, daily on behalf of all the shows and all involved on the back end of things. We'll see you in the next one.